So, good morning children, welcome to this English teleteaching program. In the last session, we discussed one of the very important chapters of your English grammar book, that is subject verb agreement, and we have already discussed what is the agreement between the subject and verb and how it takes place really. So, we also discussed the subject, the number and person of the subject that agrees or that must agree with the number of the verb. And we have also discussed some principles, 5 principles which are there in your textbook. So, today we are going to discuss some more principles or more rules of grammar of that topic subject verb agreement. Before that, let us see what you have understood, what you understood in the previous session. So, now this is your turn, you answer, you read the paragraph. I am going to give you one paragraph and one passage about Gopabandhu. You read the sentences and tell me how the verbs they agree with the subjects. So, listen to me first, you read, you listen to me and we will also discuss, and you can assess yourself, you can evaluate yourself how much understanding have taken place in your mind. पिला माने तुम निजे पैराग्राफ टी पैसेज टी पढ़िबो वाक्य गुड़िक पढ़ी कि सब्जेक्ट वर्ब गुड़िक देखिबो. I have underlined the subjects, I have also changed the color of the verbs and you can remind the rules. जदि मने पकई पारिबो ए नियमटा कोन ताहले तमे जानि पारिबो जे तो प्रकृति बुझिछ. तो नाउ दिस इज फॉर यू टू रिकैप and to evaluate, to assess yourself, right. So, there were many great men in Odisha. Gopabandhu Das is popularly known as Utkalamani of Odisha. He was born on 9th October 1877 in a noble Brahmin family in a small village called Suando on the banks of river Bhargavi in the district of Puri, Odisha. His parents Sri Daitari Das and Sonamai Devi were very simple and kind. Kindness and service was his motto in life. His clothing was also very simple. Even today, people remember his service and dedication. So, my dear children, we have some sentences in this passage. At the time of knowing grammar, learning grammar, we can also improve our general knowledge. So, you know the great man of Odisha Gopabandhu Das, तांको विषय तुम सब गप जानिच एवं ये गपटी जो टिके गोटे पैराग्राफ लिखाई जो पढ़ो तुम तुमको से जहाँ पढ़ीच तुम सब मन पड़ज ता सहित वी कैन ऑल्सो डिस्कस ग्रामर. So, there were many great men in Odisha. So, the sentence begins with there and many great men is the noun phrase which comes after where. That is why I have already told you, when the sentence begins with there, then the noun phrase after the verb that actually agrees with the verb. So, many great men were, the real subject is many great men, there is anticipatory, and this was the first rule in the previous session. तेणु जो आम डिस्कसन करिथिले तार प्रथम नियमटा थिला जे वाक्यटी जदि देर आरंभ होइथिबो ताहले क्रिया परे जो नाउन फ्रेज थिबो से नाउन फ्रेज होची रियल सब्जेक्ट ता सहित वर्बटी एग्री करिवो, राइट. देन कम टू द सेकंड वन, ही वाज बोर्न. ही is the third person singular number, you know, third person. He was, not here, not he, actually he am. So, he was or he is we can use, I mean he पाखरे is was बसैबा किंतु एठी जेहेतु से गोपबंधु दास is dead, is no more now. आम जो जड़े dead person विषय लिखा से अधिकांश समय we can use past simple, right. So, he was born. So, was agrees with he. Then come to the next one, his parents Sri Daitari Das and Sonamai Devi, actually all these things they are the subject, beginning from his parents up to Sonamai Devi, ए दुई जन जाक समस्ते होचंदी गोटे नाउन फ्रेज एवं दैट इज द सब्जेक्ट वेयर, राइट. सो द नेक्स्ट सेंटेंस, kindness and service was his motto. So गोपबंधु को जीवन रो थिला दया आउ सेवा मने रख पिले दया आउ सेवा थिला तांको जीवन रो लक्ष्य always he focused he gave importance on this. So kindness and service one unit, bread and butter one unit we have discussed, right, rice and curry one unit, kindness and service one unit was his. So singular verb. His clothing I have already told you in the previous session we have discussed. His clothing was clothing, food, right, stationery यहाँ पे हमें singular verb लगेगा was. And even to the people I have already told people, cattle, police they take the plural form, not remembers but remember. So this is all about our previous session. Let us go to the new principles what we are going to discuss, right. You see. So dear children, you read the following sentences. All the books which have been placed on the table are mine, right. So underline all the books. The radio which you gave my children works perfectly. So underline the radio. So the radio, all the books, actually this is the noun, and which have been placed on that table, the entire part or from beginning from all to table, that is the subject, but all the books, actually the books agree, the noun books agree with the verb, books were. So the radio which gave. So my dear children, ଯେତେବେଳେ ଗୋଟେ relative clause थिबो मझिरे आमे देखिबा सेतोळे जे antecedent actually you just see if a clause separates the subject from the verb, it is necessary to remember that the actual subject or word to make the verb agree with it. So actual subject is the books, all the books, the radio, right. So the radio singular, so works perfectly. Let us go to the next principle, right. Either of the boys has got a prize, neither of them has come, none of the students has arrived yet. So either of, neither of, none of, but boys, them, students plural अछि. Either neither रो जदि वाक्य आरंभ होइतो से जदि सब्जेक्ट टी ताहाले शेष नाउन टी प्लुराल फॉर्म हेले मध्य सिंगुलर वर्ब बसिबो. So either of the boys has, neither of them has, none of the students has. My dear children, if a subject begins with either of, neither of or none of followed by a plural noun, that means the next noun is a plural noun or pronoun, then the verb is usually singular, right. सबु बेला अपन हमें देखिबा neither of them, them is that is the plural form of the pronoun. So the verb is always actually singular, right. So each of the students, one of the girls questions, one of the girls was able to answer. So one of the each of the, that is actually they take singular verbs. So neither, nor, either, either of, neither of, none of, each of, one of, all these subjects they actually take singular verbs, right. Next one, no child has, no child, no children, you just see, no child, some. So when the sentence, when the noun phrase or the subject begins with no or some, verb is used depending on the number. No child, child is singular, has. No children, children is plural, that is why the verb is plural, have. Some water actually is here used uncountable, water is uncountable is. Some girls, actually girls is plural form, that is why the verb is plural in form. So no some is followed by a singular noun, it takes singular. If it is a plural noun, then the verb is plural. So गोटे वाक्य जेतले no some आरंभ होइतिबो singular verb टा singular noun टा singular verb, plural verb टा plural verb नबो, plural noun टा plural verb नबो, right. So my dear children, we discussed these principles and we have some other principles also. In the next session we will discuss what are these things very quickly, right. So dear children, let us go to the next rule. You now look at the screen and read the sentences. We have two sentences here, right. The Vice President of India and Chairman of Rajya Sabha has given his consent to the bill. The Vice President of India and the Chancellor of the University were invited to the convocation, right. So you see, in case of number one sentence, we have singular verb. In the second sentence, the verb is plural in form. So has and where, what happens? The same thing is there, only one difference. when we, in case of the number one sentence, when we say the Vice President of India and Chairman of Rajya Sabha, actually both the things they are for one person. Vice President je Rajya Sabhar chairperson se, right. तेणु दुई जन जाक जेहेतु गोटे लोक तापाई आमे सिंगुलर फॉर्म व्यवहार करिछे, हाज व्यवहार करिछे. And what is the technique? Actually you mark it, there is no article before chairman, chairman पूर्वरु article nahi. And in second sentence, the Vice President of India and the Chancellor of the University. So Vice President is one person and the Chancellor of the University is another person. So there are two persons, and that is why, and they are joined by the conjunction and. That is why this subject is this noun phrase in plural form that agrees with the plural form of the verb where, right. So the principle is when and connects, the conjunction connects two titles or designations of the same person, the verb is singular. If the persons referred to are different, they are two persons, then the verb is plural, right. And look at the next slide so that you can easily understand. You just see, the Vice President of India and Chairman of Rajya Sabha has given his consent to the bill. The Vice President of India and the Chancellor of the University were invited. So mark that to indicate that the persons talked about two separate individuals, we use the definite article the before each person as in the second example above. पिला माने actually एटी टिके ट्रिक अछि खाली परीक्षा रे जतले पढिबो देखिबो जदि दट लागि जाईछि सेठी द चांसलर तमे जानिलो दीटा लोक, जदि आर्टिकल दट नाही ताले से दीटा को डेजिग्नेशन गोटे लोक पाए. एतिकी टेक्निक बहु समय रे ए टाइप रो प्रश्न पड़े. दिस टाइप ऑफ क्वेश्चन कम्स इन एंट्रेंस एग्जामिनेशंस, नॉट ओनली इन योर board examination but also in other examinations in your life. You can get this type of question, very very important. This principle is. So look what these two designations, if you don't get the article the before the second designation, you know that there are two persons in these sentences, in this sentence, and they are not one person, and in that case you can use the plural form of the verb. Let us go to the next one. This is also very very important. Please remember, my dear children, 2/3 of the acid has evaporated, 2/3 of the apples are rotten. So the subject in both the sentences, the subject part is same, 2/3 begins with the same phrase, 2/3, 2/3. But in case of number one sentence, 2/3 of the acid, acid uncountable singular, 2/3 of the apples, apples countable noun and plural in form. So plural verb apples are. So एटी कौन होची, एटी शेष रे आमे देखिबा जदि गोटे भग्नांश अछि, गोटे फ्रैक्शन अछि, फ्रैक्शन रो सेही जो सब्जेक्ट पार्ट रो शेष रे जे अछि से ही डिसाइड करिवो verb टा सिंगुलर और प्लुरल. So 2/3 of the acid, acid is singular verb that needs uncountable like water, that is why has. 2/3 of the apples, apples is plural in form, that determines the plural form, right. I think you understand. Let us go to the next one. You read the examples. A lot of people were present at the meeting. A lot of money was spent on buying clothes for the marriage ceremony. Some of the students were intelligent. Some of the music was excellent. So a lot of you can find where? You can find also what? Some of you can find where? You can find what? तेणु लॉट ऑफ रे सिंगुलर फॉर्म अच्छी, लॉट ऑफ रे भी प्लुरल फॉर्म अच्छी. ताले कोठी हमें बसैबा सिंगुलर फॉर्म, कोठी हमें प्लुरल फॉर्म वर्ब बसैबा देख पिले. ए लॉट ऑफ पीपल, पीपल इज एक्चुअली काउंटेबल, एक्चुअली दैट इज collective noun, and like cattle, like police. So where? A lot of money, money is uncountable, that requires, that takes a singular form. Some of the students, students is plural in form where? And some of the music, music is uncountable and singular verb. So जेतले uncountable singular verb, जेतले lot of लगे कि जेतले plural verb noun लागुची सेतले plural form. So what is the principle? If the subject begins with a good deal of, a great deal of, a lot of, plenty of, most of, some of, এই ভଳିয়া যদি বাক্যটা सब्जेक्ट आरंभ होइतिबो माने बहुत ए गुड डील ऑफ अनेक माने बेसी ए ग्रेट डील ऑफ बेसी ए लॉट ऑफ अनेक प्लेंटी ऑफ प्रचुर मोस्ट ऑफ अधिकांश सम ऑफ केतेक ए सब जिंस रे आमे कोन करबा ना वर्ब टाको डिसाइड करबा नाउन को देखिकी राइट एग्रीज विथ द नाउन दैट फॉलोज देखो पिले ना ए लॉट ऑफ people noun so verb is where money is noun in the second sentence singular uncountable singular verb some of the students plural form of the noun so plural form of the verb where some of the music uncountable words so in this case a lot of some of great deal of a भली जदि phrase रो आरंभ होइथिबो sentence बा subject then the verb can agree with the noun which follows the actually this phrase a lot of or some like this or which is used before the verb right. Let us go to the next 9b. A crowd of people was a crowd of people a crowd of right a herd of was a group of was. So, phrases beginning with a congregation of combination of a group of a crowd of a flock of a regiment of a actually सेठी सिंगुलर वर्ब लाग ए जेते सब बहुत को बुझेइबो किंतु गोटे यूनिट को बुझेइबो ए ग्रुप ऑफ सोल्जर्स राइट. सो माय डियर चिल्ड्रन व्हेन द सब्जेक्ट बिगिन्स विथ a congregation of a crowd of a flock of a group of a herd of a regiment of actually in that case we can use a singular verb actually agrees with the noun right. Let us go to the next one 9c. A number of children are now you see a number of sick children is increasing my dear children very interesting thing that is also a tricky principle. Number जेतले subject दी number a number आरंभ होइतो mark in the sentence number 1 the sentence begins with a number or the subject begins with a number but the second one the number. So, what is the difference? A number of children means many children, the number of sick children means the number itself तांको संख्या केते एठी number को बुझौछि right. So, when the number of begins with a then the verb is plural, when the number begins with the verb is singular. The number of children ए पिलांको संख्या केते सेठी कहउछि a number of children means many children right. So, a number of followed by a plural noun takes a plural verb then a the number of in a similar situation takes a singular verb are the real subject is the number. So, this is a very tricky question and you should remember this. तेणु आउ थे पुणी रिपीट करुच्ची मु ए नंबर ऑफ चिल्ड्रेन जो ए नंबर आरंभ हम से सिंगुलर ए सॉरी प्लुराल वर्ब जो द नंबर बसब से आम प्लुराल वर्ब ए सिंगुलर वर्ब बसवा जस्ट ओल्टा ए नंबर वन्स अगेन आई रिपीट व्हेन ए नंबर ऑफ चिल्ड्रेन मीन्स मेनी चिल्ड्रेन आर द नंबर मीन्स संख्या केते सेठी संख्या गोटे द नंबर होची माने वर्बटा एग्री करूची नंबर उपरे संख्या उपरे तेणु द नंबर इज इनक्रीजिंग संख्या बढ़ुची एठी पिलांका संख्या माने बहुत पिला नु. This is what is the principle right. Let us go to the number 10 rule. You just see physics, measles, the news, no information. So, physics is my favorite subject, measles is an infectious disease, the news was bad, no information is available now. So, in this case what happens all the verbs are singular in form because the subjects or the nouns they look like plural form, but they are actually singular in form माने plural in form singular in meaning. Physics s अछि किंतु गोटे विषय name of the subject, name of a subject. Measles it ends with s but that is the name of a disease. The news means a piece of news information, a piece of information. No information, information is uncountable that is why is. So, statistics, mathematics, physics, economics, news, measles, mumps, mumps जानिछ पिले जोटा आमे कहू गालु आइट गालो फुली जाए गालो तळ mumps मने रख mumps से भी गोटे रोग बहुवचन भलिया देखा होछि तमे अर्थ न बुझी पाले लगे दबो एस्ट लागिछ बहुवचन लगे दबो. So, you have to understand the meaning of the words. Advice uncountable, information, jewelry, scenery, right, are uncountable nouns, they take singular verbs. So, in all these cases the subjects or the nouns they seem to be plural in form, but they give singular meaning, and that is why they take singular verbs. So, physics, measles, news, information, mathematics, economics, moms, advice, information, jewelry, scenery, एगुड़ा जदि वाक्य अच्छी ताहले आखि बुझिकी you have to use the singular verb form of the verb. Let us go to the exercise, right, activity 2. I am going to read out, first you listen to me, then we will discuss. Fill in the blanks with appropriate auxiliary verbs, right. Auxiliary verbs you know, in class 9 you have read, नवम श्रेणी तुम सब पढ़ीच. auxiliary, primary auxiliary, is, am, are, do, have, does, did, एगुड़ा सब पढ़ीच तुम्हें. secondary auxiliary बा modal auxiliaries, right, can, could, may, might, shall, should, all these are modal auxiliaries. So, you can use auxiliary verbs in the blanks, right. So, either of the boys dash won a medal, neither of those officers dash efficient, one of his friends dash able to speak English fluently, some honey dash left in the pot, right. Then the governor and chancellor of the university dash been invited to this function, 3/4 of the crop dash damaged by the flood, a great deal of money dash spent for his mother's treatment, a whole regiment of volunteers dash working here, the number of scholarships dash increased this year, these days mums dash not at a difficult to at all difficult cure, mums कही गालुआ पुरगो, right. Let us go to the answer part, and the answers can help us to remind and to recollect the discussion. आमे जिते उत्तर एगुड़ाक करिबा पिले आमे सुंदर भाव रे जो जहाँ डिस्कशन करिछे आमे ताको बुझी परिबा, we can understand, we can remind of the principles. Either of the boys, right, either of, we have already discussed, either of, neither of, none of लागिला माने सिंगुलर लागिबो. तेणु either of the boys has not have, boys अच्छी बोले have लगेबा नहीं, कहीं कि boys टा नब नहीं, either of नब, either of, neither of, none of, right, one of. So, neither of those officers is efficient, से officer मानु केही हेले भलो नुहंती तो क्यों नुहंती. One of his friends is able to speak English fluently, one of his friends means he has many friends, but one. So, one agrees with each, right, one of his friends is able to speak English fluently. Some ani, so ani is actually like तमे जानिछ महु जानिछ सेटा होछि just like water, it is uncountable and that takes singular verb, we have already discussed, right. So, some ani is left, not are left, right. Let us go to the next sentences, my dear children, look at the sentences, right. The governor and chancellor of the university has been invited to this function. Why has, why not have? Because the governor and chancellor of the university, that actually राज्यपाल एवं यूनिवर्सिटी जी होचंदी chancellor से होचंदी जणे लोक एठी काहे कि I have already told you, we have already discussed, if we find the chancellor, then both the persons are different. जदि द नहीं ताहले गोटे सिंगल पर्सन दुईटा डेजिग्नेशन दुईटा पोस्ट रे अछंती. सो फॉर दिस टू डेजिग्नेशंस फॉर ए पर्सन, फॉर वन पर्सन द वर्ब इज सिंगुलर. सो हैज बीन इनवाइटेड. 3/4 of the crop, I have already told you, when fractions are there, भग्नांश अछि माने सेठी कोन हबो ना जे एक्चुअली लास्ट नाउन जे क्रॉप से जो फॉर्म रे अछि सेठी हबो. सो 3/4 of the crop was damaged, right, uncountable crop. A great deal of money was, money, so a great deal of, I have already told you, a great deal of जदि थिबो, a great deal of congregation थिला माने a lot of, a great deal of सेठी कोन हबो ना नाउन ऊपर निर्भर करछि. मनी होछि सिंगुलर, एठी uncountable, so that's why was, not where but was. A whole regiment of volunteers, again singular, regiment of, great deal of, I have already. The number of scholarship, you just see, I have already told you, the number, a number. A number of means many, the number means sankhya. So, the number of scholarship is these days mumps could a name of the disease, that is why is not at all difficult. So, my dear children, we discussed in the first session we discussed 5 principles. In this session we have already discussed 5 principles. So, 10 principles, we have some more principles for this subject verb agreement. I think you have understood all these things and we have discussed the exercises. Please do these exercises at home as homework. You can understand better. The time is over now. Let us say goodbye. Thank you.